Introduction, Evan Stigler. Thank you so very much for the opportunity. I'll get right to it because I know that time is of the essence in terms of y'all carrying on your business today. The background picture is a picture of, I hope you can see it, of Amelia Boynton when they attacked the marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, 1965. They had knocked her unconscious, and her friends supported her and were able to. John Lewis was on the other side. They had also attacked him. Now, mind you, these people were the marchers or protesters for voting rights during that era, 1965, the third attempt to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge peacefully. John Lewis read to some students, upward bound students the other day about that portion of the trip and how that came about to be. I can go on and on about that experience, but you'll have to hear that story when y'all take this pilgrimage that's coming up in March, because there's so many other opportunities or situations and occurrences that is happening. And I just have to be quite honest with you. I am on pins and needles. I am alarmed by the state of America at this point. I am prayerful all day, every day, about the state of this wonderful, blessed country that we would be where we are 100 years, 200 years later. This battle has been fought and fought and fought, and America is a beautiful country, had beautiful landscapes, wonderful birds and bees. I mean, I am a naturist. I just love what God has put on our earth and given us the privilege to, and we are destroying the peace and love that we are supposed to be about. So I titled this talk about three things which are very similar and relative: tenacity, commitment, and sacrifice. And that is the spirit of those folk who came and made those pilgrimages across not only the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the March on Washington, the Montgomery bus boycott, 1955. I think I'm going to develop a Jeopardy game, and I'm going to name all of those incidents and personalities who people have never heard their names. You may never have heard the name of Amelia Boynton because the fight is almost identical. Topic may be a little skewed, a little different, but the way that voting is being tampered with as it relates to how you vote, the laws that are being put in place of what you cannot do at poll places, if you have a certain crime against you or you can't get your voting rights restored. I mean, they're all kind of drawing different lines. The case that was brought, the Shelby versus Milligan case. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that was the case where they had gerrymandered the area, and that we don't had one district in Alabama, and all of that was about voter suppression. And a man named Evan Milligan, who I know him personally, was the one that brought that case against Merrill versus Milligan, it was. And it changed to Allen versus Milligan because the Secretary of State left office, and then Allen took over. But that case was the case that the Supreme Court deemed that we needed to have a second district. And that man, young man, Evan Milliken, attorney that used to work for Equal Justice Initiative. Equal Justice Initiative is the organization, nonprofit organization that has made these amazing 3 now sites for talks about mass incarceration. Let me go back. The enslavement in America, throughout America, and mass incarceration and civil rights. 3 sites that you will not be able to grasp in one setting. You'll go through it. When you get home, after you've made these visits, you are going to be different. This is a pilgrimage. This is not a tour. I'm trying to I'm not really trying to promote. I'm just trying to give you some idea about where we are and what the whole purpose is in terms of us really understanding what has happened to us, what has happened to America. Why are we still striving and struggling against something that there's enough pie for everybody? There's plenty for all of us. And so I am just enamored with Brian Stevenson and his brilliance and his staff and anybody that has funded this operation. 3 sites, y'all, for $5. That's unheard of. But it's not really about the money with EJI. It's about the awareness and the education and the understanding of where we've been, where we need to be, and where we can be in this country. So that experience, I think you're going to find important. Mrs. Rosa Parks did not make that sacrifice alone. Mrs. Parks was armed or equipped, I should use the word, with the Holy Spirit, understanding and knowing that it was her charge to persevere and stand up for what was right by sitting. And that fateful day, December 1, 1955, when she left the Montgomery Fair department store, and you'll see the proximity from where she lived, she wasn't thinking that she was going to have to walk to work. She that wasn't even on her mind. She left that job as a seamstress in that little dark dank of a place where she worked, because it wasn't comfortable now. She worked all day sitting. People say her feet were tired. No, they weren't. She couldn't have been tired. She was a seamstress. She sat most of the day. So anyway, so she made that sacrifice and gave herself up to the establishment. That's what I call them, the system, that said, you are defying the law. It's against the law for you not to give this seat to this white man. And so I always quote the response to that bus driver. James Blake was his name. When he said, if you don't give me that seat, I'm going to have you arrested. She said to him, you may do that. Very calmly, not violent, not rough. And when they escorted her, I say they escorted her, they didn't drag her off like they drug off Claudette Colvin, who was the 15-year-old prior to her in March, prior to December. They drugged Claudette off because Claudette was a feisty 15-year-old who just was not having it. She didn't have the maturity or the experience or the understanding that Rosa Parks had, because Rosa Parks was 42 years old, so, and a secretary of the NAACP, and had come up against this same bus driver 12 years earlier. Isn't that amazing that she would remember who he was once he approached her, and had a mother and a grandfather who had fought the Klan. So she was equipped with this background, had been sent to do some recording of an incident in Abbeville. So Mrs. Parks was equipped to maintain her calm and say, you may do that. I always say that Claudette Colvin gave resistance to the arrest. Mrs. Parks gave permission to the arrest. And that started the beginning in America. Not, this is, the incredible thing about Alabama is, and I think about this all the time, that in this small town of Montgomery, I tell Montgomeryans, I'm not a native Montgomeryan, but I'm a native Alabamian. Y'all are a small town with big city ideas. But the movement, 1955, changed the trajectory of America. And Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a preacher who was sent to be the pastor of Dexter. He didn't come here knowing that he was walking into a hornet's nest. He didn't come here to say, okay, I'm going to lead these people. He came to be the preacher. And when all of this was in the making when he got here, it was in the making when he got here because E.D. Nixon was leading the charge. And Rufus Lewis and all those people that played a part in the Montgomery bus boycott were all ready to do something about the situation in Montgomery relative to segregation and the treatment of particularly their women on the buses, because a bus driver could take any liberty that they wanted to, call your wife or your mother or your daughter anything they wanted to, and mistreat them on the bus. So all of the community was aware of the situation, the segregation, so-called laws. And so when Dr. King arrived, this was in the making. When Mrs. Parks was arrested, well, what's going on? His members were telling him, you don't know? Let me tell you, Reverend King, listen, Pastor, we are in a pickle. Things are going on. Did you know? They arrested another lady. There were ladies before her. Ironically, that they would arrest the women. Women led the movement. I mean, there she is, Miss Boynton. Now that's in Selma. Marie Foster, Fannie Lou Hamer in Mississippi. Diane Nash was a journalist snick to me. I call it a general. Diane Nash orchestrated the Freedom Riders of buses. Dr. Stagel, he knows. But anyway, so here we are having experienced and have been taught about the struggles and the accomplishments and achievements that we thought we had already settled. I thought we settled that. I thought when I almost put the picture of Lyndon Johnson signing the Voting Rights Act, I almost put that picture in the background. I thought we did that. Did we do that? But now we're trying to reverse. But I was on a call last night, and I'm not going to go over that list. But I have the document of that Project 2025. You're not familiar with that. That is an atrocity. That is the most outrageous, backwards thinking, what do you call them, demagogue thinking that we would even consider that it's in writing of what they're trying to do in America. I love the name America. I know a girl named America because it speaks so beautifully, the word itself. But to have the threat of tarnishing what it is an atrocity. And only we can change that. Only decent people, only rational people, only Christians find it. I'm talking about the true Christian. I'm not talking about made up. I'm not talking about, as I say, fake Christians. I'm talking about those who people like Reverend Stigler, who has that heart and that mindset that we don't own any of this. I want to recognize and pause just for a moment, and then I'll turn it back over to President Beckham, because I know y'all have business to do, and so do I. And I know that I may have been brief, but I mean, because if I keep going, I'll go all day, because I can talk all day. But I do want to recognize the passing of Sheila Jackson Lee, who passed this morning or yesterday of pancreatic cancer. A great soldier. A great soldier. He's right up there with, you may not have known it, John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis. You know, and there's a reason. Now we all leaving here. We'll leave here today, tomorrow, next day, whatever God says. But we gonna all leave it. But what we leave behind, what the work, we got to do the work on this side. And there's plenty, of work to do. But as a song says, I ain't nowhere tired. We just got to keep pressing on. Because I really believe there's more good than there is evil. I believe that. I believe that with all my heart, that there is more good than evil. The only reason the only difference is that evil is louder. That's the only difference. They don't, evil folk don't outnumber good people. They're more good than evil. Evil is just louder. Think about that. So we're pressing on. I thank you for the opportunity. I hope I've given you something. Please consider coming to this meeting. Mr. President, I do have an agenda. I outlined it yesterday because I had to update it to include the Freedom Park, what you read. I'm going to send that to you today. It is a sketch. It's covering Montgomery. Let me tell you, we're going to do Montgomery if possible. We're going to do that last. I got to tell you why. It's because it's the heaviest one. Okay, I mean it's heavy. You got do some weightlifting before you come. Eat well and rest well, because it's gonna take you through something. But we're gonna do Selma, which is significant, a significant visit. You must walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, rain, sunshine, snow. I don't care what it's doing. I've been there all types of weather. Doesn't bother me at all, because I know the sacrifice those folk made. 54 miles. Okay. I had a lady, they're coming, they're bringing a group. Well, it's a meeting. It's an organization. They're coming, nonprofit. She says to me, well, I don't, some of these board members, they don't know, and I don't want them to, be so overwhelmed. I said, I may back up and say this to you, ma'am, then they should not come. Because those people that Mrs. Boynton was hit in the head, so was John Lewis, and so was Linda Lyer, was kicked by a policeman and gassed by police. Those folks through it. I don't try to apologize for you being uncomfortable because it's raining or it's hot or you can't take it. don't come. And I didn't mean to be harsh, but I meant to be truthful. That those folk made the sacrifice. Those folk endured. Those folk walked 381 days without riding to work 20 miles a day back and 20 miles to and fro. No, I can't make an apologies or pet somebody on. Oh, I'm sorry. No. And then you're going to go to Birmingham, where you're going to just really be enlightened to experience the bombing at 16th Street Baptist Church, and applaud those folk for for preserving that story, that tragedy of those little girls, and how they have memorialized them. It is definitely a worthwhile experience. And then Tuskegee, which is like the champion site. I love Tuskegee. The Tuskegee Airmen, I mean, they are just incredible. And women were Tuskegee Airmen. You're going to learn some stuff about the women. I got to champion us women, because we are not only the backbone, we are at the forefront. We just lost, I'll tell you about that when you get here. But there's so many stories, so many people, so many places, so many incidents, so many occurrences. That is, please. And I'm sorry if I was sounding a little harsh before about the experience you need to have, but it's a wake up call. It's a wake up. We have to know that. Thank you so very much for the time and the opportunity. And President Beckman, I will get this to you this afternoon. I just want to make sure that it's accurate. I didn't put the times on there because we have to get that understood once we get everything in order. Thank you all very much for your time, and please excuse me and let me get to these young people and make sure that they're registered to vote today.